My mother was the queen for a very long time. My brother, this is something he's been waiting for, and he's probably spent more time thinking about it. For the rest of us, it's more a question of, okay, we have to shift the way we support.
Imagine a room filled with royalty, chandeliers glowing, cameras waiting, and history watching in silence. A single piece of jewelry is lifted from a velvet case. Diamonds catch the light. Pearls tremble slightly as it's moved. And in that moment, the entire balance of power inside the British monarchy quietly shifts. Because this was never just about a tiara. It was about memory. It was about loyalty. And it was about one woman's quiet decision that spoke louder than any royal decree. For decades, the Cambridge lovers' not tiara carried the presence of Diana. Not officially, not in writing, but emotionally. Every photograph, every state banquet, every flash of cameras reinforced one idea, that this tiara belonged to her spirit. When Diana first wore it, she transformed it. Before her, it was history. After her, it became legend. The pearls framed her face in a way that made the world stop and stare. She joked it gave her headaches. It was heavy, but she wore it anyway, because she understood what it symbolized. Strength, grace, belonging. Then came 1997, the Paris Tunnel, the silence that followed. The tiara returned to the vault, and for nearly 2 decades, no one touched it. Not because they couldn't, because they wouldn't. The monarchy understood something without saying it out loud. Some objects hold too much emotion to be casually reassigned. The lover's knot was no longer just part of the collection. It was part of Diana's story. Years passed. The royal family evolved. New faces stepped forward. And slowly, attention shifted to Catherine. Calm, composed, careful. She didn't try to imitate Diana, yet something about her presence felt familiar to the public. Warmth without drama. Confidence without noise. When Catherine first appeared wearing the lover's knot, the reaction was immediate. Not shock, not controversy. Acceptance. The public saw continuity, not replacement. The tiara didn't feel taken. It felt passed forward. But behind palace walls, conversations were more complicated. Because symbols matter in a monarchy. They communicate messages without words. Who wears what, when, and why tells a story. This is where Princess Anne enters quietly but powerfully. She is not dramatic. She does not chase headlines. She rarely speaks emotionally in public. But inside the royal structure, her influence is immense. She represents stability, duty, memory. Princess Anne witnessed Diana's rise. She witnessed the pressure. She witnessed the collapse of Charles and Diana's marriage. And she witnessed the aftermath when the world blamed the monarchy for appearing distant. These experiences shaped her. She became someone who protects the emotional foundations of the institution, even when no one is watching. So when the question of the lover's knot resurfaced, and understood what was at stake, allowing the wrong transition could reopen old wounds. But guiding the right one could preserve continuity. Catherine wearing the tiara felt right. She was the Princess of Wales. She represented the future. She carried herself with quiet respect toward Diana's legacy. Nothing about it looked forced. Nothing about it felt political. And so, without announcement, without ceremony, the tiara effectively moved into Catherine's orbit. Not through a formal transfer, but through repeated appearances that signaled acceptance. The world saw the photographs. Catherine at state banquets. Catherine under palace lights. Catherine standing beside global leaders. The pearls resting exactly where they once rested on Diana. Each appearance strengthened the message. This was not imitation. This was inheritance. Meanwhile, Princess Anne remained silent. But silence, in royal language, is approval. She didn't need to defend the decision. The imagery spoke for itself. Over time, the tiara began building a second chapter. It no longer belonged only to memory. It belonged to continuity. The monarchy was showing it could honor the past without being trapped by it. This quiet transition revealed something deeper about how power works within the royal family. Legal authority matters, but emotional authority matters more. Objects like this tiara carry public sentiment. Mishandling them risks more than criticism. It risks trust. Princess Anne understood that instinctively. Her role was never about commanding attention. It was about preserving balance. By supporting Catherine's use of the tiara, she protected Diana's legacy while allowing the monarchy to move forward. And Catherine, in return, wore it carefully, not too often, not casually. Each appearance felt deliberate, respectful, thoughtful. The symbolism remained intact. What emerged was something rare, a seamless transition built on respect instead of replacement. The lovers' knot became a bridge between generations. Diana's spirit, Catherine's presence, and the monarchy's future all woven together. Today, when Catherine steps into a room wearing that tiara, cameras flash just as they did decades ago. But the meaning has evolved. It no longer represents only a lost princess. It represents continuity, strength, quiet resilience. And behind that transformation stands a figure who never needed applause. Princess Anne, the guardian of tradition, the one who understood that sometimes the most powerful decisions are made without microphones, without headlines, without speeches, just a quiet understanding, a subtle approval, a silent passing of history from one woman to another. The diamonds still sparkle, the pearls still move gently with each step, but now they carry two stories, connected across time. And as Catherine continues to shape her own role, the lover's knot remains more than jewelry. It remains a reminder that legacy is not taken, it is entrusted. Somewhere in the royal vaults, countless pieces of history rest in silence. But this one continues to live, not because of its value, but because of what it represents. Duty, memory, continuity. And in that glow, you can still see Diana. And now, you can see Catherine too. The doors of Buckingham Palace close softly, but inside those walls, decisions echo for decades. Sometimes they are written in official documents. Sometimes they are announced with ceremony. And sometimes they happen in silence, witnessed only by those who understand the weight of history. This story begins with a tiara. Not the most expensive in the royal vault, not the newest, but perhaps the most emotionally powerful piece of jewelry in modern royal history. The Cambridge lover's knot. When people think of Princess Diana, they often remember her compassion, her vulnerability, her ability to connect with crowds. But visually, there's another image burned into public memory. Diana beneath palace lights, diamonds and pearls framing her face, the lover's knot resting on her head like something she was always meant to wear. Before Diana, the tiara had acquired to life. Commissioned in 1913 by Queen Mary, inspired by an older family design, it carried royal elegance but little drama. It passed to Queen Elizabeth II, who wore it with restraint and dignity. It was respected, admired, but not iconic. Then Diana arrived. She didn't just wear the tiara. She transformed it. Photographers noticed immediately how the pearls moved gently when she turned her head. The design softened her features. It gave her an almost luminous presence. She wore it at state banquets, royal tours, diplomatic receptions. Each appearance strengthened the connection between her and the tiara. She once joked it gave her headaches. It was heavy, difficult to balance, but she continued wearing it because she understood symbolism instinctively. She knew the monarchy spoke through visuals, and this tiara spoke loudly. When Diana died in 1997, the shock reverberated across the world. Flowers filled the gates of Kensington Palace. Millions watched the funeral. And quietly, the lover's knot was returned to the royal vault. For years, it remained untouched. No official rule prevented anyone from wearing it, but no one did. It was as if the palace itself recognized that the tiara had become inseparable from Diana's memory. Time passed. The monarchy shifted. Prince William married Catherine. The public began to compare her gently, cautiously, to Diana, not because she tried to imitate her, but because she shared something intangible, composure mixed with warmth. Catherine approached royal duty differently. She moved carefully. She chose her moments. She built trust gradually. There was no rush, no dramatic statements, just consistency. Then came the moment that changed everything. Catherine appeared at a state banquet wearing the Cambridge lover's knot. Cameras flashed instantly. Social media exploded. News outlets ran comparisons. But the tone was not negative. It was emotional. Many described it as continuity, a passing of something meaningful. It did not look like appropriation. It looked like respect. Inside palace circles, these choices are never random. Jewelry selections are discussed, considered, Weighed against history. This is where Princess's influence becomes crucial. Princess is often described as the hardest working royal. She rarely seeks attention. She avoids drama, but she holds deep institutional knowledge. She remembers the monarchy before modern media pressure intensified. She witnessed Diana's rise and the challenges that followed, and understood Diana's impact. She also understood public sentiment. Allowing the wrong person to wear Diana's tiara too soon could appear insensitive, but allowing Catherine, Diana's direct successor as Princess of Wales, felt appropriate. There was no formal announcement, no ceremony of transfer, but repeated appearances told the story. Catherine wore the lover's knot again and again at key moments. Each time, the symbolism grew stronger. The public began associating the tiara with Catherine's role, not replacing Diana, but continuing her legacy. This is how royal transitions often occur, not through speeches, but through images. A photograph can communicate more than a press release. Catherine standing beside world leaders wearing the same tiara Diana once wore created a bridge between generations. Princess's quiet approval mattered. Within the royal family, her perspective carries weight. She represents continuity, tradition, stability. By not objecting, by allowing the pattern to continue, she effectively supported the transition. Over time, the tiara gained a second identity. It was no longer frozen in memory. It was living again. Catherine wore it during significant diplomatic events, reinforcing her position as a future queen. Observers notice how differently she styled it. Diana often paired it with dramatic gowns. Catherine chose more structured, modern silhouettes. The effect was subtle but important. She was not recreating the past. She was building her own chapter. This balance preserved respect while allowing evolution. The monarchy depends on this delicate dance between history and progress. Too much change risks alienating traditional supporters. Too little change risks appearing outdated. The Lovers' Knot became a perfect example of this balance. Princess Anne, meanwhile, remained in the background. She did not comment publicly. She did not seek credit. But her role as a quiet guardian of tradition shaped the outcome. She understood that certain symbols must be handled with care. The public response confirmed the decision. Each appearance generated admiration, not controversy. People saw continuity. They saw stability. They saw the monarchy honoring Diana without being trapped by the past. As Catherine's confidence grew, the tiara appeared at increasingly significant moments. It became associated with her strength, particularly after personal challenges. When she returned to public life following illness, wearing the lover's knot again, the symbolism felt powerful. Resilience, continuity, hope. The pearls that once framed Diana's face now framed Catherine's, carrying two stories at once. Inside palace walls, this represented success. A seamless transition achieved without public conflict. The monarchy had preserved emotional history while moving forward. Princess's influence was central. Her understanding of legacy ensured that the tiara did not become a source of division. Instead, it became a unifying symbol. Today, when Catherine enters a state banquet wearing the lover's knot, cameras still flash with the same intensity. But the narrative has evolved. It is no longer only about Diana. It is about continuity, about the future. The monarchy survived through symbols like this: crowns, titles, ceremonies, and sometimes a tiara that carries memory across generations. The diamonds remain unchanged. The pearls still sway gently, but their meaning grows with each appearance. Somewhere in the royal vaults, countless pieces rest in darkness. But the lover's knot continues to live, because it carries more than history. It carries emotion. It carries legacy. And in that quiet transfer, guided not by law but by understanding, Princess ensured that Diana's story did not end, it continued. Now, when the lights shine and Catherine steps forward, the tiara glows with two reflections, one from the past, one from the future. A silent connection, a royal legacy, and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful decisions are the ones never formally announced. There are moments in royal history that are loud: coronations, weddings, jubilees. And then there are moments that pass almost unnoticed, yet quietly redefine the future of the monarchy. No headlines, no speeches, just a decision, made carefully and understood by those who know what it means. This is one of those moments, because this story was never really about diamonds or pearls. It was about memory, loyalty, and the invisible rules that hold one of the world's oldest institutions together. The Cambridge Lovers' Not Tiara was already historic long before Diana ever touched it. Designed for Queen Mary in 1913, inspired by her grandmother's jewelry, it represented continuity within the royal family. It passed through generations, admired but never emotionally charged. Then Diana entered the royal stage. Young, shy, and suddenly under global scrutiny, she faced pressures no royal bride had experienced before. Cameras followed her constantly. Every gesture was analyzed. Every appearance became front-page news. And when she wore the Lovers' Not Tiara, something extraordinary happened. The public didn't just see a princess. They saw vulnerability mixed with elegance. The pearls softened her expression. The diamonds reflected light in a way photographers loved. The image became iconic almost instantly. She wore it to state banquets, royal tours, and formal receptions. Each appearance deepened the association. Soon, the tiara wasn't just jewelry. It was part of Diana's identity. She even joked about its weight. It caused headaches. It pressed heavily against her head. But she kept wearing it, understanding that symbols mattered in royal life. When Diana died, the monarchy entered one of its most difficult periods. Public grief was overwhelming. The palace struggled to respond. And quietly, the Lovers' Not returned to the vault. Years passed. No one wore it. Not because it was forbidden, but because it felt untouchable. It carried too much emotion. It represented loss. Then came Catherine. From the beginning, she approached royal life differently. She was careful, measured, respectful. She didn't try to fill Diana's space immediately. Instead, she built her own relationship with the public. When she finally appeared wearing the Lovers' Knot, the reaction was immediate. People didn't see imitation. They saw continuity. The symbolism felt appropriate. She was the new Princess of Wales. The visual connection made sense. But inside palace circles, these choices are never simple. Every detail is considered, and this is where Princess Anne's role becomes crucial. Princess Anne has always represented duty above everything. She doesn't seek attention. She rarely expresses emotion publicly, but her influence is deeply respected. She understands royal tradition at its core. She witnessed Diana's struggles. She saw the public's reaction to her death. She understood how emotionally charged the Lovers' Knot had become. Allowing the wrong transition could have created controversy, but allowing Catherine to wear it felt natural. There was no official transfer, no ceremony, but repeated appearances made the message clear. Catherine wore the tiara at important events. Each time, the association strengthened. The monarchy communicates through imagery. A tiara, a gown, a gesture, all send signals. Catherine wearing the Lovers' Knot signaled respect for the past and confidence in the future. Princess Anne's quiet acceptance made it possible. Within the family, her perspective carries weight. She acts as a guardian of tradition. Her silence was meaningful. It meant the transition had her support. Over time, the tiara began to evolve. It no longer belonged solely to Diana's memory. It became part of Catherine's journey. She styled it differently. She wore it with modern elegance. She created new iconic images. The public embraced this evolution. They saw continuity, not replacement. The monarchy had successfully navigated a sensitive symbol. This kind of transition is rare. It requires patience. It requires understanding. And it requires someone like Princess Anne to guide it quietly. As Catherine's role grows, the tiara's meaning grows with her. It appears at diplomatic events, state dinners, and historic occasions. Each appearance adds another chapter. The pearls that once moved with Diana's gestures now move with Catherine's. Two stories, connected by one piece of history. The monarchy depends on such symbols. They create emotional links between generations. They reassure the public that tradition continues even as faces change. Princess Anne understood that deeply. By allowing the tiara's transition, she preserved Diana's legacy while supporting the future. Today, when Catherine enters a grand hall wearing the Lovers' Knot, the room often falls silent for a moment. Cameras flash. Observers notice a familiar shape, the recognizable pearls. And in that instant, the past and present merge. The decision was never announced. No statement was issued, but its impact continues. Because sometimes the most powerful transfers don't happen through official words. They happen through understanding, respect, and timing, princess, and ensured that this symbol remained meaningful. Catherine gave it new life, and Diana's memory continues to shine through it. The diamonds sparkle the same way they always have. The pearls still sway gently, but now they carry a legacy that spans generations. A silent transition, a carefully protected memory, and a monarchy that moves forward while never forgetting the woman who made that tiara unforgettable.